Guys, this video is brought to you by our friends at Kettle & Fire. Kettle & Fire is the only bone broth company that uses 100% grass-fed and finished beef bones and 100% pasture-raised chicken bones. They make the cleanest and most convenient bone broth on the market and never use anything artificial. They slow simmer their chicken bones and grass-fed beef bones for over 20 hours with organic spices, vegetables, and apple cider vinegar. This extracts nutrients like collagen, protein, and other key vitamins. It's incredibly healthy, and it's often used to help people with gut-related health issues. Bone broth is a great addition to your morning routine. I try to drink some first thing as part of a daily health habit. If you train a lot, the gelatin found in bone broth is great for your joints and tendons. But best of all, Kettle & Fire tastes amazing. It's the most convenient bone broth on the market and takes less than 2 minutes to prepare a delicious cup of bone broth. Try it for yourself. Use code Chael. That's going to save you 20% off your order. Go to kettleandfire.com or just click on the link below. Kamaru Usman. You know, the more I get to know Usman, the more I like Usman. And Usman's what you would call a cool guy. How would you define a cool guy? Well, it's no different than junior high or high school. It's the guy that's got a swagger to him. A guy that smile is just enough. A guy, maybe he's got fashion. You see him wearing a shirt or some shoes, but then you want to go get similar shirt or shoes because the cool guy was wearing it. Like, Usman is a cool guy. The more I hear Usman talk, he's a smart guy, though, too. And he was just dismissing Chimaev. He just got done dismissing him while never once looking scared. That's hard to do. It's also almost impossible to make the greatest fighter in the world, pound for pound, look scared, but he can do it to himself. I see guys grab a microphone all the time, try to dismiss somebody and look scared. Look, Usman's a wrestler, so I understand his mentality a little bit different. Let's say we're wrestling. We don't sit down with contracts ahead of time. We don't work anything out ahead of time. We don't get any training camp ahead of time. You show up on day of, and between 8 and 10 a.m., they're going to do what's called weigh-ins. You will then have an hour break, and at 11 a.m., the action starts. So you have no idea who else showed up. You have no idea how the bracket room and how all this is going to work, but eventually your name and another name is going to get called. You're going to walk to the mat. You then have 40 other guys that also showed up over the course of the day. We're going to have a tournament, meaning you don't know who you have next because you don't know if you're going to win or lose or who else is going to win or lose. You don't know if you're on the backside or the front side. You have no idea. But you don't ever feel sorry for yourself. You don't ever think that's a disadvantage. That's the way it is. It's a true tough guy sport for that very reason. Not just the difficulties of the sport, but for the mentality that it requires, which is anyone, anywhere, anytime. 5 and 6, the baddest dudes out there in the same day. You have a guy feeling great at the weigh-ins. You got bouncing around. His first match, he's bouncing around. By the end of the day, that same guy, he's got tape over his eye because it's swollen shut. He's got his fingers wrapped together because they're possibly broken, but he's not going to know because he's not going to go to the hospital until this event's over. He's got ice on his knees, got to take off before he walks onto the mat, but his opponent looks the same way. And I will tell you, if I'm in a wrestling tournament and I know you're the guy, and we all know right away, we're keeping our eye on one guy. Okay, I have a feeling he's going to come through. But then I find out that you, who I'm worried about, you have to wrestle a bear before you wrestle me. I'm going to be all for it. I'm going to be all for it because I'm fully going to acknowledge that's going to wear you down a little bit. Maybe the bear even beats you, and this fear that I had just goes away completely. It still at least keeps hope alive. And however the hell this plays out, when they call my name, I'm going to step out there, whether it's you or the bear, because that's what we do. So Usman was coming, he was talking about Chimaev, but he was coming from this real wrestler's mindset, and I loved it. He acknowledged that Chimaev is very good. He acknowledged that Chimaev is potentially a problem. He made it very clear, I will deal with him when that time comes. I think I can beat him, but if I can't, I'll hand the belt to him. That's the sport. That's what we've agreed to ahead of time. Made this very clear. But then Usman laid out what he wants to see Chimaev do. Now, we will see champions trying to deflect the hard work all the time as a way of preserving the belt. But the litmus test for is that champion a coward or is that champion within his lane is what did that champion go through to get his belt opportunity. Usman won 15 fights before he could get the opportunity. Usman came through the Ultimate Fighter, the toughest tournament in all of sport. Usman beat former world champions. Usman put himself in the batter's box to be a backup fighter on 1 day's notice. So yes, Usman's going to be a little bit pissed off by the time he gets there. He's got a little rough around the edges for somebody else that gets it handed to them. But it doesn't make Usman wrong when you look at what Usman went through. It's very, very different. And you guys have been in situations like that. Some kid copies off you at school. You stayed up all night studying. He didn't study. Now he gets the same answer. You've been in situations like that where you go, well, look at what I had to go through, but I had the same outcome as him who didn't sacrifice. It's fair. So Usman just said, as it pertains to Chimaev, let him go through Gilbert Burns. Let him go through Colby Covington. Let him go through Leon Edwards. He gets a couple of those top names. I won't deny him anymore. But if you think I'm going to just hand him something because he was masterful in the 4 fights that he had against unranked opponents and then got the captivation of the media, it's not enough for me. Well, you know what? Generally, that would piss me off. And generally, I would call a guy out for ducking, but not Usman. Again, because of the test. Usman's only asking the contender to go through what he went through. And Usman's also looking at it like the wrestler. Where, hey, I see a problem. I've identified within the course of this bracket the problem, but the problem has to go through another problem. If he does, I'll deal with him tonight. If he doesn't, great, get the hell out of my way. I thought it was fair. I thought it was reasonable. I think that Usman's very respectful towards Chimaev. I've never heard him say anything bad, but Usman also has a respect for the coveted position of main event opposite him with the world title on the line. So for him to say, I want the guy to have to earn it a little bit, for me, when I remember all the things that Usman had to do and all the people that tried to deny him, remember the night that Usman fought T. Wood, won every single round, but went out there a 2.5-1 underdog because he went those 15 fights in the beautiful Ultimate Fighter tournament victory. He couldn't get his respect and his due. Yeah, he would probably like to see that from an opponent.